In the local market, the Honda Odyssey is seen as a premium luxury minivan with almost the same level of pedigree as the Toyota Alphard, but without the associated stigma of being a pogo-mobile or a politicos car. It's the family vehicle for the subtle elite, and in this video, we check out the top-spec Honda Odyssey Ex-NAVi and see why it is a favorite amongst the low-key, moneyed families. Let's do this. Hello again guys, I'm Reagan and welcome back to another car review. If you're new to my channel, I hope you click that subscribe button and become part of the Reagan's Rides family. If you're my subscriber already, thank you so much for your support. I truly appreciate it. Also special thanks to Honda Cars Manila for giving us this opportunity to feature the top-spec Honda Odyssey Ex-NAVi. If you have a need for any Honda, do head on down here to Honda Cars Manila and check them out, or you may also contact the person in my pinned comment below. The premium minivan segment in the Philippines has a few players, but the Honda Odyssey has been a mainstay since 2012. As the years went by, these premium minivans grew in size, but the Odyssey even shrunk in 2015. That's because Honda Philippines decided to stop importing the North American Odyssey and gave us the Japanese version of the Odyssey instead. This Japanese Odyssey is smaller and narrower and better suited for our small roads. However, even as the Odyssey shrunk in size, its price proceeded to go up to the premium minivan segment with this top-spec Odyssey Ex-NAVi retailing for 2,698,000 Philippine pesos. Now, it did receive a midlife facelift in 2018, and that is the version that we have now. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you look at the Japanese version of the Odyssey is how sporty and nimble it looks, even while it's standing still. It doesn't get that fancy, squared look of other minivans, but rather has an athletic stance that ties it closer to its Honda siblings. Now, the front fascia is signature Honda here, which means it gets a lot of chrome. The top-spec Ex-NAVi though gets black chrome, so it scores a few points in my book. Now, we get dual projector LED headlights here. We also have LED DRLs and LED fog lights. Now, during the 2018 midlife facelift, the Odyssey also received this aero kit for its front bumper. And when you put it all together, it moves away from that soccer mom look and goes towards the sporty dad bod category. Now, even if we get a sporty front fascia in this Honda Odyssey, the side profile betrays its more domestic intentions. The Odyssey gets power rear sliding doors here, which is expected from a premium minivan at this price. Now, we also get black chrome or dark chrome for door handles, and we also have a power folding side mirror with LED turn signals. Now, I like the fact that they also incorporated a sporty side skirt here with this chrome finish at the bottom part, which ties it closer to the front aero bumper kit that this Odyssey has. Now, the wheel and tire combo of the Odyssey is a bit on the large side for a minivan. These are 17-inch wheels, and they're wrapped in 215/55 R17 tires. Behind those wheels, we get four-wheel disc brakes, and for your suspension, we have a MacPherson setup in the front, but only a rear torsion beam at the back. Now, that kind of surprised me because for its premium minivan segment, you'd expect that comfort would be high on the priority list, and the rear suspension should be an independent multi-link suspension. But no, we still get a rear torsion beam at the back. That's not really a good sign. However, the ground clearance of the Honda Odyssey is decent for a minivan MPV because it's at around 150 millimeters, so it should be good enough for our regular Philippine roads. The Odyssey's rear end has been nicely styled, pretty similar to the one found in the front. We get Honda's signature gorgeous LED taillight assembly here. We've got some chrome bits that thankfully has been kept to a minimum, and we also have a nicely integrated rear spoiler here that goes well with the rear bumper that also received that aero treatment that we also saw in the front and the side skirts. However, one of the things that I'm not fond of about the rear end of this Odyssey is the fact that it doesn't get a power liftgate. This is still a manual operated liftgate, guys, and at the price you're paying, I would have expected a power operated liftgate, but we don't really get that. Now, once we've popped open that manual thing, we have trunk capacity that is pretty typical, trunk design that's typical of a minivan. It has a pretty deep bottom here, and with the third row in use, we get 351 liters of cargo capacity. Now, I know it's not as big as the North American brother, but well, because of the smaller footprint of this Japanese Honda Odyssey, we get a wee bit smaller space as well. Now, 351 liters is still a decent amount, and it's even good enough for one medium-sized luggage, and you can put it here while standing up. So that means you could put one, and you could put a second one here while it's standing up. And don't worry, guys, you could still close that even if it's standing up like that. See? That is pretty good for a smallish minivan. So you could fit two medium-sized luggage here. However, if you need more space than the 351 liters, the third row seats can go away with a simple tug of a strap here. And all you need to do is just lift it all the way down into the floor. As you can see, you could put it here into the floor, and there you have now a flat space that can easily accommodate 6 to 7 medium-sized luggage. I can put my medium-sized luggage here. I can put that there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 medium-sized luggage. Easy peasy. Now, the second row captain's seats can also slide forward, thus giving you more space, but it will only impinge on the leg room of the second row passengers. But that's the price you pay if you want to accommodate more stuff. Now, the Japanese version of the Honda Odyssey gets a smaller engine than what's found in its North American brother. What we have here is a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder iVTEC engine that can put out 173 horses and 226 Newton meters of torque. Now, that torque figure is a bit on the low side, given the fact that the Odyssey is meant to ferry 7 passengers with its stuff. Well, it's going to be quite interesting to see in the driving impressions later on. Now, the power is sent to the front wheels via a CVT transmission. Again, the CVT plus that anemic torque figure, yes, I'm going to have an interesting time in my test drive later on. Well, not much else to see here, guys. This is still a minivan's engine after all. The cockpit layout of the Honda Odyssey is pretty similar to the Honda CR-V, where everything vital is pretty much incorporated into the dashboard. Although unlike the CR-V, we do get an actual gear shifter here versus the CR-V's, buttons for your gears. Now, as expected from a premium minivan, we get leather seats here, and the front passenger and driver seats are both power adjustable, although the leather quality it's not as plush as the ones I've encountered in other premium minivans, like for example the Toyota Alphard, but it will still do quite nicely. We also have a nice leather wrapped steering wheel here, and the steering wheel also has cruise control buttons and the usual buttons for hands-free connectivity. We also have the wheel that tilts and it also telescopes, so finding the perfect driving position when you couple it with your power adjustable driver's seat, it's gonna be a cinch. Now, here's something of a surprise, guys, something that you don't normally see in minivan offerings. Behind the steering wheel of the Odyssey, we've got paddle shifters here. Yeah, so paddle shifters in a minivan with a tiny engine. Yes, that is not something you'd see every day, but at least we still have paddle shifters in case you want to do some simulated gear shifting with your CVT. Now, when you look at the instrument gauge cluster of the Odyssey, this is a mix of analog and digital. We've got a large analog speedometer front and center, and we've got 3 information display. We've got one in the middle in a circular format and flanked by 2 squarish LEDs here on the left and the right. The thing is, the two LEDs on the left and the right, you'd think that these are like 6-inch or 7-inch LED screens, but it's a bit of a cheat because it's not really. It's just a tiny LED window or LCD window that shows you your fuel gauge and your digital tachometer and the clock of all things. Now, when you move over to the infotainment system, the Odyssey, for such a large vehicle, has a smallish infotainment screen. We have a 7-inch touchscreen here with some haptic buttons here for other controls. And unfortunately, it doesn't have Apple CarPlay. It also doesn't have Android Auto, guys. So you'll have to connect via Bluetooth if you want to listen to some online tunes. The good thing though is we do get a 360-degree view camera, so that should help with maneuvering this minivan. Although the resolution of the 360-degree view camera, yeah, it's so-so, it's not really that clear, but it will still get the job done. Now, when you move over from your infotainment system, you'd see you have an engine push start button here, well, a tiny gear shifter, but at least you have a gear shifter. And you also have this fully automatic triple zone climate control system. This is nicely integrated into the dashboard, and it's surrounded by this dark brown finish here, although the finish is a bit on the glossy side. So yeah, it's gonna still accumulate some dust and scratches, but at least it's not like the light brown leather that we normally see in more traditional premium vehicles. Now, from your climate control area here, we go down and you have plethora of connections. You've got a 12-volt outlet here, a USB charging port which can only charge at 1.0 amperes, which is kind of slow, guys. And we also have an HDMI port for your rear entertainment system, which I'll show you a bit later. Now, the good thing that I like about the Odyssey though is how modular the storage spaces are. You've got some really fancy storage spaces here, large cubbies where you could park a lot of stuff. You even have a pull-out dual cup holder here in the middle, which unfortunately I don't think it will pass my clean canteen test because it is a bit on the shallow side. But you do have some bottle holders on the doors for larger and longer stuff like my clean canteen. You also have this nice center armrest here in the middle that goes up and down. Pretty nifty. I love that because this is really going to be comfortable for the driver when you're going on a long drive. And we also have a regular sunroof here that is only exclusive to this top-spec Ex-NAVi. It's a smallish sunroof, especially since we've seen a lot of like panoramic sunroofs already with some of the other models, but at least you still have a sunroof there. Now, when you look at the entire cockpit of the Odyssey, you'd see that you have some nice leather on the door cards, nice leather on the dashboards. We've got soft touch plastics in the other areas. So practically all the high traffic areas have been covered with the leather or soft touch materials, which is expected from a premium minivan like the Odyssey. You know, this is one of the advantages of the Honda Odyssey. You've got a really low ride height here. So, you know, the elderly and the small kids could easily just step into this van without having to go up or climb into the car. Now, let's close that power sliding rear door there because it's quite hot outside. It's nice and cool here. Now, despite the lack of some tech features like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in the Honda Odyssey, much of that would be forgiven already once you step inside the rear of the Odyssey, the back seat, the second row seats, guys. This is where the business truly happens. We've got here a couple of captain seats that are the best seats in the house, guys. Now, these captain seats are also wrapped in leather, and we have a nice butterfly headrest here to make sure that you don't get a stiff neck in case you doze off inside your Honda Odyssey. Now, these seats are manually adjustable. You could recline it, you could slide it forward and back, and it even comes with an ottoman here, tiny little ottoman, but because this thing is, yeah, that's the maximum I could slide it back. Yeah, so because I'm 5'6", guys, or anybody who's as tall as me or taller than me wouldn't really be able to like fully recline, fully extend their legs out here on this ottoman. So I guess those ottoman features are really more for, let's say, small kids or, well, smaller people than myself who wants to relax in the Honda Odyssey. Now, speaking of dozing off, in case you do doze off, you could just pull up your privacy shades right here. There you go. And that should keep the light and the riffraff out, and they won't even see you snoring inside your Honda Odyssey. Now, for those people who don't want to just relax and just want to be entertained, the Honda Odyssey also comes with a ceiling mounted 9-inch screen here that connects to your infotainment system, and get this guys, this plays DVDs. Now, if you're a 12 or 13-year-old or below and you're watching this video, just go and ask your parents what a DVD is. So it's really funny that, you know, the Honda Odyssey is still equipped with a DVD player. Yeah, not really something that you'd be excited about in 2021, but yeah, we do have that here. Now, we also have other toys. We also have a solo USB charging port here in the center. We got a couple of cup holders mounted beside the seats. You also have AC vents on the second row and the third row seats, and you also have ceiling mounted lights. And the climate control here is individually controlled from the front because we have a triple zone climate control system. Now, the safety bits of the Odyssey, this is a family vehicle, guys, so the safety bits would also be quite comprehensive, and you'd be right. You see, the Honda Odyssey comes with dual front airbags, we've got side airbags, and we've got curtain airbags that spans the entire length of the car or the van's windows. We also have ABS with EBD, we've got stability control, we've got hill start assist, and we've got blind spot monitoring, and we've got parking sensors in the front and the back, which helps alert you when somebody goes to your blind spot. So that also ties up with your blind spot monitoring system. So yeah, on top of that, guys, well, the space here, despite being a smaller size than the North American Honda Odyssey, we've got a decent amount of space here. For an average Asian like myself, this is plenty space, and we even got a tiny corridor here in the middle, so that it would be easier for people to go over to the third row of the Honda Odyssey. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. All right, so the third row seats of the Honda Odyssey is quite spacious, guys. I'm 5'6", as I mentioned, and I got a good amount of space here. Granted, the second row passenger is a bit forward here, but even if, like this other side, it's not that forward. So got around 3 inches of knee room and a good 4 inches of headroom. Now, the Odyssey markets the third row seats as good for 3 people. And while you could accommodate like 3 people here in a pinch, just keeping it to 2 would be totally ideal. This is quite comfortable, and I love the fact that these seats, despite being, well, the econo seats when it comes to the Honda Odyssey, they're quite soft and they're almost on the plush side even, and I could see that this is going to be quite comfortable even when I go on a long drive and I'm just here on the third row seats. Now, for your toys, we do get a 12-volt power outlet here for charging duties, and we also have an HDMI outlet. Just wondering why that's there, although I do have a theory, like you could probably connect an HDMI cable to your, like, I don't know, your Nintendo Switch or something like that, or maybe a PS4. Just maybe put a PS4 here and you could play that on the 9-inch screen right there up front. Perfect way to entertain the kids while you're going on an all-day cross-country trip. Now, yeah, aside from that, we also get a squarish cup holder here and a tiny like tray here on the other side, on the right side, that will house some knickknacks or candies or stuff like that. But anyway, enough of the third row seats, guys. Let's take this sporty paddle shifting minivan out for a quick spin and see how it behaves on the road. Alright, now driving the Honda Odyssey. Now typically, the buyers of this car would normally sit on the second row seats, on those juicy captain's chairs right there at the back. But I don't really have a manong driver with me right now, so we'll just have to limit this driving impression to the front row experience. Now, having said that, guys, as I'm driving this thing right now, I could see that the visibility is fantastic. As expected from a minivan, we've got a nice forward visibility and large windows on the sides that will help me pilot this thing in narrow Manila roads and in our jungles of streets. Because yeah, this place, driving in Manila, it's like you're driving in a jungle. But you wouldn't be too worried about that while you're inside the Honda Odyssey. You see, this thing is really equipped to just keep you comfortable while you're going on that drive. Now, I like the fact that we don't really get too much blind spots in this thing. We've got some nice large windows on the A-pillar there that should help me see, even if this is a relatively wide vehicle, I could still see my blind spot pretty well. So yeah, visibility, this thing is quite easy to drive. Now, I mentioned that we have a smaller engine than the North American brother, 2.4 liters. So let's see what kind of grunt we can expect. Alright, so as expected, this thing has a bit of a challenge when it comes to revving, to going up. Okay, I've shifted to paddle shifters now. I'm now on a simulated 4th gear, and yet still this thing is having quite a hard time, picking up the pace. Granted, there's some traffic in front of me, so I couldn't really go really fast. Yeah, but at least the paddles are there. It's a nice novelty to have, guys. The steering feel, however, I must say, is really decent. It's actually quite good. We've got a nice amount of heft here. It doesn't feel too numb, doesn't feel too clinical. It feels like a proper Honda steering, which is one of the best in its class. The same could be applied for the Honda Odyssey. This thing really drives really well. Now, when it comes to comfort, well, the NVH levels of the Honda Odyssey is up there along with the other premium minivans in the segment. The NVH is really good. I feel like I am fully insulated from the harshness of the environment outside, from all the noise, all the stuff that's going on here on the streets of Manila. I'm totally insulated from that. That's one of the good things that I like about the Honda Odyssey. Another good thing here is, despite the fact that we have a rear torsion beam, the suspension ride is similar to the other premium minivans out there. I'm quite surprised that despite having a pretty low rent budget rear suspension, the Honda Odyssey's suspension is really tuned towards comfort. And that wouldn't be a problem, especially for your sleeping passengers at the back. Other notable areas of the Honda Odyssey is the climate control is really cold. It's nice and decent. The ergonomics are also spot on, as expected from a Honda. This thing feels so easy to drive. And I like that I don't really have a very high driving position here. It just feels like I'm driving a regular, like a mid-size premium sedan. And that's really nice. Overall, guys, the Honda Odyssey's combination of its plush ride, the premium appointments found inside, the cold air conditioning, and that sedate engine equates to a city minivan that is meant for leisurely and relaxing drives. That's actually quite a good thing, guys, because the Honda Odyssey's target market are people with families, with small kids, and with senior citizens and the elderly. And you wouldn't want manong driver to be racing down the street with their Honda Odyssey now, would you? Yeah, exactly. So as long as you keep it as a leisurely and relaxing drive, the Honda Odyssey will deliver on its life purpose. So where does the Honda Odyssey slot in the Philippine minivan world? It may not have the most cutting-edge tech features out there, nor does it have the largest space offered by other minivans, but it does give you a smaller, easier to drive option in the minivan segment. So in case manong driver decides to take a day off, you can still drive this thing and not feel like you're piloting a boat. It has enough features and luxury inside to make the drive comfortable, as long as you bring enough DVDs to keep the kids occupied. And also, as long as they know what a DVD is. Anyway, thanks for watching.